Hey, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Joe Hall. I'm the police chief here at the Bartow Police Department. This is Detective, what's your name again?
Cody Vaughn.
Cody Vaughn, good man. What I asked you to come for today is so I can give you some information on an investigation that detectives with the Bartow Police Department has been working on since February. On February the 20th of 2018, at approximately 11:15 p.m., officers of the Bartow Police Department responded to 1481 Stewart Street in Bartow regarding an unresponsive 14-year-old child. The child was subsequently transported to Bartow Medical Center, where she was pronounced deceased shortly after midnight. Detectives immediately began investigating the suspicious death, interviewing the child's mother, Audra Pender, and another subject who was present within the home, Matthew Christian. Through interviewing Christian, detectives learned that he had been involved in a dating relationship with the child and was present during the time leading up to the death of the child. Christian disclosed at some point during the night, earlier in the afternoon, the child, Rhiannon Quinn, had in fact ingested a substance we believe to be methamphetamines, which the child had located in the mother's bedroom. Shortly thereafter, Quinn made contact with her mother, Pender, who was away from the residence. Quinn informed Pender of what she had ingested and informed her that she was beginning to experience symptoms that she believed to be an overdose. Approximately 1 hour later, Pender arrived at the residence to find the child victim in an extremely agitated state, displaying extreme signs of narcotic overdose. Despite these findings, neither Pender nor Christian summoned emergency medical care for the child. In fact, Pender and Christian placed the child in a cold water bath in an attempt to alleviate the symptoms of a narcotics overdose. Pender advised Christian that she had drugs in the house and that due to this, she did not want the police on her premises. Only after removing the evidence of narcotics from the residence and after the child became unresponsive did Pender summon assistance, which was about 11:15 as we mentioned earlier, approximately 6 hours after being notified that the child was actually in danger. Quinn was subsequently transported to the hospital and was pronounced deceased. During this investigation, detectives interviewed the medical personnel at Bartow Regional Medical Center, and investigators were advised that had Pender sought medical help for this child even 2 hours sooner, the child likely could have been saved. Additionally, an autopsy conducted by the 10th District Medical Examiner's Office determined the cause of the death of the child to be methamphetamine intoxication. Detectives obtained a search warrant, served the search warrant on communications providers to obtain the conversations between Pender and the child victim. These efforts revealed that Pender knew the extent of what the child had ingested and her efforts to conceal the incident from authorities while negating her responsibility as a caregiver to obtain medical assistance for this child. As a result of Pender and Christian's complete failure to act in an appropriate manner, Rhiannon Quinn, 14, died of a narcotics overdose without the benefit of medical intervention. As detectives were reviewing the information obtained in this case, they also uncovered evidence of child pornography, which was located on a telephone seized from Matthew Christian. The phone contained nude images of the child victim in a sexually suggestive manner. Investigators also located photographs of male genitalia, which were sent to the victim by Christian. Christian admitted to having been in a sexual relationship with the child and exchanging these nude photographs with our child victim. Based upon these facts, detectives obtained arrest warrants for Pender and Christian on charges related to the death of this child, including aggravated manslaughter. On October the 8th, yesterday, Christian was arrested at his residence without incident by Bartow detectives. Attempts to locate Pender at this point have been met with negative results, and her whereabouts at this time is unknown. We're asking at this point for the public's assistance if they know of the whereabouts of Pender to give us a call or let Crime Stoppers know where we might find her. The pending charges against her at this point is aggravated manslaughter of a child, tampering with physical evidence. Matthew Wayne Christian, who I spoke of earlier, has already been arrested and charged with aggravated manslaughter of a child, possession of child pornography, transmitting material harmful to minors, the nude photos we talked about earlier. Okay. Hopefully, as you can tell, the detectives have spent a good 9 months on this investigation, bringing it to a successful conclusion. And as you can see from the photographs here, Pender is the person that we're still seeking at this point in time. These are very serious charges. From the onset, detectives were convinced that this child died as a complete and total result of the failure of Pender seeking medical attention, knowing good and well she had ingested methamphetamines that was contained in the house. That's the purpose of the charges.
Chief,
go ahead. No, go ahead.
I understand that maybe the mother threatened to expose Christian if he tried to get medical help, and that was one of the reasons for the delay. Is that true?
Yeah, well, what we believe right now is, correct me if I'm wrong, Cody, but what we believe right now is that because there were drugs in the house, we know there were drugs in the house, the mother's failure to notify authorities or allow Christian to notify authorities was because there were drugs in the house and they didn't want the police on the scene.
And did she threaten him, that she might expose his relationship if he overrode that?
Per our investigation, yes. She did threaten him, but ultimately he was on scene. He had access to a phone, and he failed to notify any emergency services.
Bottom line is what we're saying is they were both there. They're both adults. As far as we're concerned, the child was obviously sick. She was obviously had ingested a serious narcotic and was experiencing an overdose right there in the home. Within an hour, they could have notified authorities, which they did not. Neither one of them.
I mean, what do you think about what they did here, knowing that she was in such terrible shape, and because they were guilty of something, didn't care enough to get help?
I think that's exactly the reason why the detectives have spent the entire time working on this case and not letting the case drop through the cracks, is because we've known from the very beginning that this Pender woman is completely and totally at fault for this child's death. We don't think very much of that, and thanks to Cody Vaughn, who worked tirelessly from the time the case come in on February the 20th from till yesterday when we made the first arrest. He worked getting search warrants, serving search warrants, trying to build a case to the point where we are now. I don't know what to tell you about this woman that allowed this 14-year-old child to just lay there in his home and die. And remember, she laid there and suffered for 6 hours before we got medical attention to her.
Joe, can you tell us when you got the warrant and how long between the time you got the warrant and the time you were able to get this guy in custody?
Yep, go Cody. I'll let Cody tell you.
All right. Go ahead, repeat the question one more time.
When you were able to obtain the arrest warrant and when you were able to actually take him into custody. Well, we know that was yesterday, but what's the time frame?
Right. As soon as the medical examiner's office provided the details as far as cause of death, we immediately began, we interviewed the ER doctor who was able to confirm that if Rhiannon was brought there at a sooner time, she would have been able to save her life. So once we got a sworn statement from her, we immediately began obtaining the arrest warrant for both individuals.
When did the arrest warrant get issued?
Arrest warrants for both was issued yesterday.
He was arrested yesterday, and we've been unable to locate her at this point.
When was the last time she was seen? Did anybody have an idea?
Approximately 1 month ago, or about 2.5 weeks ago, we attempted to locate her. She did, and by talking to neighbors and other family members, she did take flight upon our arrival. So we're asking the public's assistance, by all means, if you happen to see her, to notify us or Crime Stoppers.
Any more? Well, I thank you for coming, and I ask you once again to please get the information out on Pender for us, and remind you that if you, any citizen that knows of her whereabouts, as far as we're concerned, this is probably the worst kind of case that we could deal with. But she needs to be brought to justice. She needs to be taken into custody, and we'd appreciate any help. Call Crime Stoppers if you want to remain anonymous. They'll be glad to forward the tips to us ASAP, and we'll pick her up just as soon as we can. We want her in custody as soon as possible, please. Anything? Thank you all for coming.